Did you know that kinky wellness is integral to your self-development? Hi, welcome to the Partition, home of kinky wellness, the ultimate destination to explore the integral connection between kinky wellness and your personal development. I'm your host and kinky wellness coach, Dana Shergill, and each Monday I bring on a special guest to dive into specific aspects of kinky wellness. From unconventional practices to thought-provoking conversations, I'm here to break down barriers and redefine the boundaries of wellness and pleasure. Don't forget to join me for my solo shows on Wednesdays, where I explore even further into the multifaceted layers of kinky wellness. So let's strip away the shame and taboo together and have an open conversation about it. Hey, and welcome back. Today, we are joined by renowned health and fitness international speaker, best-selling author of 4 books, and founder of YogaFit Beth Shaw. For the past 25 years, Beth has been exploring, researching, and developing fitness and wellness programs that have continued to revolutionize the health and wellness sector. And today, we are very fortunate to have her on the show to discuss the concept of biohacking and how all of us can benefit from it. So without further ado, let's welcome Beth to the show. Welcome to the show, Beth. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. I'm excited today because we're going to be diving into biohacking. And so I guess my first question is, what is biohacking and how do you define it and what does it entail?
Well, the traditional meaning of biohacking is anything that will upgrade your physical, mental, or intellectual health.
Wonderful. So that seems like it can go into all sorts of things. So what's the main goal of biohacking?
There are a couple of different goals of biohacking. One is to increase your health span, which is different than your lifespan. You know, some people might live to 105 years old, but at age 95, they start to deteriorate. So that is one goal. For me, the goal is always to look as good and feel as good as possible and to be pain-free, injury-free, to have really great cognitive function is another goal of biohacking.
I actually like the differentiation. That's the first time I think I've heard that with the health and the lifespan, because I think people do sometimes kind of put them together, but there is a very big difference of living a long, healthy life and then living a long life, but it's not so healthy.
Yeah, I had a friend once that I worked with in my early 20s, and she came to visit me when we were having a YogaFit conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. And, I was talking about biohacking and working out and, various microneedling for the face and all of that. And she's like, well, I don't understand why you're doing that. And I said, listen, I would rather look really good and feel really good for a shorter period of time than look haggard and feel tired for a long life. And she kind of looked at me like I was from another planet, which I may be. But yeah, so not everybody subscribes to the philosophy. In fact, I'm kind of shocked at how many people, especially post-COVID, are not really concerned with their physical. We'll start there with their physical health. Our obesity rates have climbed to the point where they're saying in about 10 years, 70% of our population is going to be obese. And our health spans and our lifespans actually here in North America are shrinking, which could be cause for concern. And then some other people may say, well, back in the olden days, whenever those olden days were, people didn't live past 40 years old. So, anyone living to 65, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, and even with that type of mindset, I struggle around that because from what my understanding is, we very much well could live into our hundreds if we were eating healthy. And blue zones, I kind of reference those type of areas. And it's kind of to me like, well, if we all died at 40, I'm not sure if blue zones would exist. So it's just reminding ourselves that if we do live long and want a healthy lifestyle, we have to bring in the exercise and eating and biohacking.
Most definitely. And what people don't realize about blue zones is they're not trying to live to 100. It's just their lifestyle is supporting that. So that's where I think biohacking and blue zones there's a difference there.
And so when it comes to biohacking, what are examples of what people can do? And like, is there technology based, or is there activities that people can take within their own hands?
Well, I'm going to give your listeners some very easy biohacking tips that they can do at home that are affordable. In fact, I'm launching a whole longevity program through YogaFit that will come out in July at our conference. And one is the use of red light therapy. So red light therapy has been proven scientifically to increase mitochondria function, improve cellular health, be excellent for collagen and rebuilding skin, repair of injuries, as well as any, cuts or scratches that one has. It's been studied to improve hair growth for people. And they're not expensive devices. You can buy an infrared panel off of Amazon, probably now for like under $100. And I'm a huge proponent of being a yoga enthusiast and a longtime teacher. I like to do inversions, and that is like a headstand, a shoulder stand. But I combine mine. I actually use a device where I go upside down without putting pressure on my cervical spine. And at the same, and I like to do that for 5-10 minutes a day. At the same time, I put that red light in my face. And then I stack it a little bit. I take some methylene blue, and that the red light and the methylene blue is supposed to really activate proper mitochondrial function. And people at home can also do hot and cold alternating showers. That's another biohacking thing. You don't necessarily have to have a cold plunge in your home or an infrared sauna. If you have a gym membership and there's a sauna there or a steam room, like go and do that. So there's some very simple biohacking things that people can do, and devices like the BrainTap that I use that can change the state of your brain and put you like into a theta state or an alpha state. There's even gamma training, which is the highest spiritual frequency for the brain. So there are different devices too that can be implemented. In fact, I was at a medical conference. I should have put it in front of the camera here. It was a medical conference last week in Miami. And there's a device that will irrigate your nasal passages with salt water. And it's like battery, you charge it up. Battery in the device does not last that long, by the way. Charge it up, it irrigates your nasal passages. And then there's these two little things with red lights that you stick up your nose. And it's supposed to clear out your sinuses. Also, what I think is the red light is probably going up to your pineal gland and helping with a little bit more consciousness at the same time. So there are new devices coming out on the market every day. You can, I write about biohacking on my website, bethshaw.com, or you can look at like biohacking conferences in your area. So there are really no shortages right now. Biohacking gyms are picking up everywhere. So there's a lot of technology that people can use, or there are things that people can do at home.
And it sounds like it doesn't take that much time from if it's something that you can kind of pair up with your gym or you're just putting it on your face for a few minutes. So when it comes to these type of things, is there like a range that people should be using these for, like 15 minutes to an hour, or it depends?
The range for red lights is about 20 minutes. I never seem to have enough time to be upside down for 20 minutes with the red light, but there's also, I bought something off of Instagram. It's like a mask and it has like 10 different colors and you press the button. And I brought that on airplanes before and put my BrainTap on, my strange face mask. And again, people probably think that I'm from another planet, but I think anything that makes you feel good, that you feel good about, that you know is healthy for you on some level, is something that we should all move towards.
Absolutely. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about this BrainTap. I've never heard of it before. So if you could explain a little bit more what that is.
It's a device like headset, and it flashes lights in your eyes, but you keep your eyes closed. And it pairs up with an app on your phone, so you can choose different programs based upon like if you want to wake up in the morning or if you want to have a sleep program. So it's nice to know that we can change our brain waves at will. And I'll put that BrainTap on for a theta program, and I'm out. I will pass out in like 20 minutes.
When it comes to, would gamma waves be considered biohacking as well, in the sense
Yeah,
that with the sound?
again, anything that's going to change your state to a better state would technically be considered biohacking.
Oh, okay. So would yoga then be considered something like
Well,
biohacking?
it's interesting you should ask that, and that's an excellent question because I present a lot at biohacking conferences on yoga and meditation as the ultimate biohack.
Absolutely. Well, I have a little bit of history or a little bit of experience with yoga. And I find that when it comes down to it, when you're really incorporating multiple ways of healing on like not just talk or not just movement, but when you're bringing all of it in and including sound, that's when you really get to that transformative level of change within yourself and outside. And so I push for anything that can kind of incorporate all of those multiple layers of healing in one easy go.
That's an excellent point. In my home, I do have a television, and it's mostly on a YouTube binaural beats or positive energy or some oming, because I feel like I don't watch news, which is a negative influence. And so by having this positive sound going all the time, it changes the frequency of a space.
Well, I support that 100%. I do feel that people really need to take into account the type of music that they're listening to and especially the words that they're listening to. And when I shifted from listening to music with words to just music in general, like I myself felt like I had less anxiety, I had less stress, I had less worries of like all these things that could happen or maybe not, because it's just those words really do go into your subconscious.
They definitely do. Anything we consume, whether it's food, a beverage, any input we're putting in, a horror movie. And look, I'm a fan of old school rap music. So I hear what you're saying, and it's important to limit that type of intake. And much like one should use cheese as a spice, not a main course,
Hmm.
listening to music with vocals should be done the same way.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the field of biohacking, when it comes to where we are right now, is there any emerging trends or things that are specific or exciting to you that you'd like to mention?
Well, one thing that I've been using a technology called EMS, which is electronic muscle stimulation. It's a device. There's a lot of units now for home use, and it's like a wetsuit that you wear, and it shoots impulses to your brain that makes your muscles contract. And so it's a very effective way to activate all of your muscles, especially for people who have injuries or maybe bedridden. I typically will do EMS once a week, and you're really sore afterwards, but it's a great way to, it's not a replacement for going to the gym because there is something about pulling against heavy weights that really is not like anything else. But I like EMS technology. There's also a device, it's a some weightlifting machine. It's called ARX, and it will give you as much pressure and resistance with a concentric contraction as the eccentric. So you're pushing and pulling the same load based upon what you can do. And that's also a very effective way to target your muscles quickly. I'm a huge fan of weight training. You call it biohacking if you want, but it really will change your physiological and psychological state very quickly. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll go to the gym and do some heavy legs. And within 20 minutes, I feel a really marked difference.
There's like one exercise that I do when I'm feeling a little bit frustrated where I literally just push against the wall, which sounds so simple and it is, but honestly, it's just kind of getting that energy, however you want to transfer that energy from the inside to the outside. That's what I feel like is kind of helpful for me in that situation.
Interesting. Did you do push-ups against the wall?
No, I sometimes will just push as hard as I can against that wall just to get that energy just like somewhere out. And I feel like I do push it like through my hands into the wall. And for some people, I feel like that works, and some people it doesn't. But for me, I find it fun. And it kind of sounds like there's a lot of things that some people might be doing already that could be considered biohacking to a point.
Almost definitely. Like, let's take Ayurvedic medicine, for example, something as simple as drinking a cup of hot water with lemon first thing in the morning to clean out your digestive tract. A lot of times people will think biohacking just has to do with a device, but I think that a lot of the ancient practices, especially from Asia and India, were really biohacking before their time and still can be implemented again at low cost to the individual.
Would you be able to walk us through a day of if you were to do biohacking and kind of areas where you could put it in? For instance, what you just said as the example of like waking up and having hot water with lemon, and then kind of what are some other tidbits that you could include in your day?
Obviously, the inversions with a red light, making time for meditation, and then visualizing your body in a completely healed, healthy state. I believe that the mind has so much power over the physical body that I think we can completely recalibrate ourselves with the right music and the right intention. Some people use things like plant medicine to take that to the next level. Hot and cold alternating showers, some, HIIT training is good. Maybe just running for 3 minutes and walking for two and doing that for about 20 minutes. Things that are not very time consuming that will make a big difference.
I think those are all things that people could implement right away. And I guess the goal of this is that really, I feel like when it comes to biohacking or any type of health, it's kind of reminding people that they have to take control over it. It's not something that you can just hand out to someone else all the time. So there is a little bit of accountability when it comes to this.
Yeah, that's such a good point. There's so much accountability. I do a podcast called Make America Healthy. And my only goal through that podcast is to empower people to take better control of their physical and mental health
Mm.
by educating them, because really we have to take responsibility for our own health. A lot of times people will just put it in the hands of a doctor who may or may not know anything. It's really important for people to educate themselves. And these days, we have YouTube University, so no one needs to not be educated. And again, what's very concerning to me as someone who has been in the health and wellness industry for a very long time is that a lot of people just don't seem to care about their health anymore.
Mm.
Or they wait until they have a health crisis, and then again they put the responsibility or the power in the hands of a doctor, and that can be really dangerous.
I agree with that statement. I find that we have been living in a culture where we've separated the mind and the body so completely that it's almost like, oh, I'll just go, like, I'll work just on my mental or the mind part. And we are leaving the body kind of behind, sitting on the sidelines. And until we kind of reconnect those two, that's when you're able to kind of really put your health in the forefront, because we can't leave one without the other. And a little bit in my experiences, I do feel like the body gets left behind a lot. It's like the last thing people think of.
Yeah, most people don't even realize they're in a body,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And something else like getting the early morning light in your eyes will
Mm.
help set your circadian rhythms and your melatonin production. So there are a lot of simple things that people can do to start to improve their health. Walking barefoot in the grass to ground themselves. Just little daily things that make the difference. Taking the stairs, obviously, instead of the elevator, because we're spending far too much time sitting now, especially in our world of like virtual work. It's really like on the days that I don't get to go to the gym because I have early morning commitments or whatever, I'm thinking about that all day long. People need to move their bodies for at least an hour every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things like when we first start moving our body, it can feel a little stiff, and it's going to feel a little stiff, but it is one of those things. If you just keep going, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And it's about getting over that, I guess, that hump there. I feel like when it comes to the gym, the hardest part is getting there, and then everything else is fine.
Exactly. Once you're there, sometimes I'll go to the gym and I'm not in the mood to work out, and I'll just do some yoga for like 20 minutes and kind of trick myself into then moving on to a workout.
Absolutely. So when it comes to biohacking and our sexual health, it sounds like because it's on our whole health as a level, but is there specific things that can help you in your sexual health or your sexual mindset?
Well, there are a lot of supplements that people can take for sexual health. Some Ayurvedic supplements include Shilajit, which is a pit. Um, it's a mineral pitch from the Himalayan mountains, and you'll want to find a reputable source. But again, it's something that can be bought online, and it's a supplement that can increases testosterone levels. Ginkgo is also very helpful, as is ashwagandha and maca. So there are, I know, a lot of supplements for sexual health. And I think, kind of repetitive movements with breathing exercises like yoga or swimming or maybe brisk walking can also just help move the energy around the entire body. Any yoga postures that open up the hips are also very good for sexual health. There's the obvious. It's going to make you more limber in the bedroom, but also we store a lot of tension and emotions in our hip sockets. So if you can do poses like pigeon pose or upside down pigeon, bridge poses, anything that's going to kind of open up around the psoas, the inner thigh muscles, very helpful. Just focused breathing sometimes into the lower extremities can be helpful. And again, movement, I think that fit people, and this may sound a little controversial, but I think that fit people probably have better sex than people who are not as fit.
I agree with that. It is a workout. It's a sport.
Any movement, as long as it's safe movement, is good movement.
So when it comes to biohacking, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of downfalls, but is there any like concerns that people should be aware of? Or if it comes to red light therapy, are there people that shouldn't use it? Or is this pretty accessible to everyone?
Red light therapy is pretty accessible to everyone. Obviously, going into a cryo chamber for certain people might not be a good idea, whether they have claustrophobia or different health issues. If they're pregnant, I wouldn't do it. Same thing with cold plunges. But most of the biohacking tools are really just there to enhance our physical and mental health. And I've been guilty of doing, more is more kind of philosophy sometimes. And that kind of, for me, unveils itself in the health and wellness space. You can't do EMS more than like 3 times a week because it raises your creatine levels. I actually did it once 5 times in a week, and I made myself a little sick. So, anything should be built up, much like going to the gym. You're not going to start with, doing bicep curls with 25-pound weights. You might start with 10 and work your way up. So I think it's also important to stress that self-awareness and being able to become the witness to your body mind becomes crucial to any endeavor where you're trying to improve, because you need to be able to, and this is one of the things that yoga really teaches us, you need to really be able to observe your mind, your thoughts, your body, your emotions. A lot of times people will get injured doing workouts or whatever because they're not in tune with their body, and the body will typically whisper at us before it starts screaming. But we have to learn to tune in, become kinesthetic creatures, because we are in these bodies, which again ties to sexual health, and listen to the body and the mind, and be able to observe your thoughts and your feelings, whether they're physical sensations or just emotional feelings.
And even with the sensation bit, the research that's coming out of like these phantom back aches, and it's actually repressed trauma or repressed memories or repressed emotions and things like that. And that's what I find kind of difficult in our modern health system, is that it kind of also is disconnected, that we don't really take into account that emotions and memories can leave physical impressions on people. And it's about re-teaching people like, yes, that thing that happened to you 20, 30, 40 years ago, it can show up right now in the form of pain.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of private clients, and sometimes, like even in a yoga pose, something like if someone had a heart attack 10 years earlier and had surgery, they'll have a spontaneous flashback of that because everything is really stored in our bodies. I wrote a book in 2019, just before the pandemic. It came out, called Healing Trauma with Yoga. And we really get into how trauma can change the brain and change the body. And by doing various practices, you can shift that, but it takes, like everything else, it takes work.
Yes. And it takes time and it's not going to be it, but it's so much more beneficial. Like once you get to that level of health and you're reconnected to your body, that's something that you can't really walk away from. I think, at least in my experience, because I used to be like pretty disconnected from my body, but the more I got connected to it, I can't picture myself ever walking away from it again.
Yeah, the goal is to get into a state where you're feeling so good that you want to keep returning to that state.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned previously creatine, and I was wondering if you could touch base a little bit more of what that is, because I have heard it and I've seen it, in the gym, these creatine this and creatine that. But I'm not too familiar about it.
Well, there are a lot of pre-workout supplements that people take, L-carnitine being one of them. Creatine is another that helps people build muscle. One of the downfalls of creatine, because I've used it before, is that it can create some abdominal bloating. But when I go to the gym, if I remember, I'll take a handful of amino acids, which I'm also very passionate about because most of us can't eat the amount of protein that we need to maintain our muscle mass, let alone grow it. So branched chain amino acids can be very helpful for that. Creatine, if you're really looking to get pumped, can be something good to take. And also creatine is supposed to be very helpful for people who have had traumatic brain injuries and strokes.
That's good to know. Thank you so much for the clarification. But when it comes back to biohacking, there's something called nootropics, and I was wondering if you could go into what that is and some examples.
So nootropics are cognitive enhancers and performance enhancers. I'll list some of my favorites. There's modafinil, which was created for the Navy SEALs to combat narcolepsy. You can get it. In the US, it's a pharmaceutical pill, or you can find a lot of sites where you can order it from Indonesia or India. And if you microdose with it, it can be good for people who have ADHD or focus issues, which I have. I'm using methylene blue now in tablet form and sometimes liquid. That's also supposed to be a very powerful cognitive enhancer and also is supposed to improve mitochondrial function. It's getting very popular. I take phenylalanine, which is an amino acid, and tyrosine every morning because they're supposed to be mood enhancers and also good for focus. My problem is focus, much like a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm always looking for cognitive enhancers, aside from the obvious that people, take pharmaceutically like Adderall or Concerta. There are some that are a little less injurious to the body. And most of them will come in the form of amino acids or something new like this methylene blue.
Thank you for that. And a lot of this comes back to the mitochondria. Now, as the brief information I know about it is that basically there's something at the end of it that as we age or it damages, that's kind of what ages us. But this is about restoring that a little bit.
The mitochondria are the powerhouse for the cells. And what you were just referring to is telomere length.
Mm.
Um, they say they can measure it. I don't know if that's true. They sell supplements to increase our telomere length. I don't know if that's true. They also say that meditation can be very helpful for lengthening your telomeres. I think it's a little bit too new of a science to know conclusively if those tests are actually accurate. But I like to be a guinea pig and I will try just about anything because I'm willing to pay the consequences for trying the wrong thing.
That's interesting. There's so much advancements when it comes to health that I guess where would be a good place to kind of keep up with anything that comes to biohacking?
I think any biohacking newsletters that people can subscribe to. And Dave Osprey from the Bulletproof Guy, he's been a big biohacker. Ben Greenfield had done a lot of biohacking. There's a new gentleman who was a tech guy in his 30s who sold Venmo. So he sold Venmo to PayPal, and now he's on the quest to live till he's like 200. He's doing, he's got some really interesting things on YouTube. He's spending about $2 million a year for his biohacking endeavors.
Wow, 200 though. I can't imagine. That's awesome. I'm gonna go check that out as soon as they're done here. That's
I'll
cool.
I'll find his name and send it to you. I
Right.
recently came across him, and it's interesting. He went for some kind of gene splicing in Honduras. He seems to have been all over the world. Stem cells, are very popular right now. People getting injections of exosomes, either topically or into their bodies, but there's controversy around that as well. So, any of these new advances, I think people should really do the research and then decide for themselves if it's a road that they want to walk down.
Hmm.
With traditional stem cells, injecting them into our bodies now may not be the best thing in the world because a lot of people have been over vaccinated for the past 4 years. And, you might not want to be putting somebody else's DNA in your body that could cause a disruption. So there's a lot of different advancements. I guess it all depends on how courageous one is, and really it should be up to the individual.
And it does sound like we have the affordable biohacking ways that you mentioned, and then there's the more expensive on the other side of that as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of biohacking people on my podcast, Make America Healthy. And something else I should also mention for home use is a PEMF mat, which is positive electromagnetic fields and frequencies. And a lot of times it will come with like crystals on it and lights. I use it for my dog who's got anal gland cancer, and it reduces the negative effects of hanging onto our cell phones 24/7 and all the EMFs that we're getting bombarded with 5G towers and all of that.
Absolutely. I actually looked into some plants that might help, like snake
See,
plants,
you have
spider.
one in the
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
there. Yeah, they're supposed to filter the air.
I have snake plants all over my house. I put them by the routers. I put them by my cell phone chargers. I went into that deep dive a little bit and I just can't get out of it now. And I just
You
really
can
think,
see behind me, I've got a salt lamp there too.
hmm. So in addition to snake plants and spider plants and salt lamps, is there other ways that we can protect ourselves from EMFs?
Put your phone on airplane mode at night if you keep your phone near you. Unplug the router to your Wi-Fi. Don't get too close to screens. Limit your screen time. I know that much easier said than done. Spend time in nature, walk barefoot in the grass, ground yourself, get into the ocean or a body of water if you can. All of these things, will help with the negative ions, which are protective and restore mental and physical health.
Well, I saw some crazy things about Tesla cars making people sick. I went kind of like went down that rabbit hole of a lot of people were losing their hair, chronic headaches, nausea, and it all went back to the Tesla cars. And I think that I think I'm not sure how widely available that information is, but
Well,
it's
I'd love to see that if you send that to me. We had
absolutely.
I live in South Florida and we had something interesting happen recently. There was a big parking lot by a residential complex filled with all those new Tesla trucks. There had to have been about 100 there. And I was like, are they multiplying these? And there was a movie that I watched recently with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke where the Teslas go crazy during like a doomsday end of the world thing. And they all get on self-driving mode and they just all drive out and block all the roads. Um, but someone went into this they didn't have security. Someone went into this parking lot of all these Teslas, and I curse on your show?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
They spray painted "fuck Elon Musk" across all the Teslas that were in that parking lot. And I can't imagine like having a parking lot filled with $100,000 cars and not putting a security guard there at night.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well,
So
I
maybe
will.
someone read the same research that you're citing.
Well, I'm going to also put it in the comments for our listeners to listen to, and I will make sure to send those as well because I do think that EMF and it's an underappreciated, underrated thing that we're talking about because it does our body as much as it's strong, it's also fragile in certain ways, and things that we can't see do affect it. And so it's again like emotions, feelings, things like EMF, we have to take that into consideration and heal our energy as well as we're healing our mind and our body at the same time.
Most definitely. The EMFs, that's something that people should really educate themselves on. And they're devices that you can put on your phone and in your home, even protective clothing that you can wear to shield yourself from EMFs. Because studies have shown that if, like, a guy has his phone in his right pocket all the time, his bone density on the right side of his body is going to be lower because of the EMF waves.
Mm. Yeah, I believe that. That even when it comes to like where it is on the body and you look at people and certain types of cancers, if people have it in their pocket versus not, I know that there's certain cases now that are going out that you can purchase that can block a little bit of that EMF rays. So, for sure.
Right.
Wonderful. And when it comes to just in general, what do you really want people to know when it comes down to be biohacking?
I would like everyone to know regarding biohacking and your health in general, you are in control of your physical and mental state. You can get assistance, from outside sources, supplements, equipment, and all of that. But first and foremost, it is mindset to know that you are in control. And once you're in control and you start to explore the field of biohacking or maybe Ayurvedic medicine or different ways to be healthier and feel better, it becomes very exciting because it's this unlimited world where new devices are coming out all the time, new gadgets, new supplements. So as an explorer, you have the opportunity to explore what might be a game changer for your physical and mental health.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we overcomplicate it when it comes to our type of health, and we will make the excuses of not being able to set time away from it. But I really kind of put that back under that accountability, responsibility, that it's something I'm not sure where the switch happened, where we kind of just gave away everything and we just take things as they come and not really research about it. And so when it comes to like biohacking and any type of other health issues or health ways that we can heal ourselves, it's all for the benefit of the person. And realizing that, yeah, listening to your body, it will often tell you something that you're not listening to.
Oh, definitely. And a health crisis usually has an emotional, spiritual, or psychological link. So there are many good books out there that you can read on that. Other than my book, Healing Trauma with Yoga, there's a great book. It's a little bit older. It's called Body Mind. And there's also a great book by Deb Shapiro called Your Body Speaks Your Mind. And it will show you, like, if you have lung issues, it's sadness. If you have low back issues, somewhere in your life you're not feeling supported. So it's important to recognize that if there is a health crisis, there's probably a reason for it. It could just be environmental toxins, sure, but we're all exposed to those. And the people who break down from them, maybe someone gets breast cancer at 40 years old because their mom had breast cancer and died when they were 16. Like there's a causality to everything, and everything is interconnected.
Well, I will send this other study that I'm about to reference if you'd like it too. They did this study on rabbits where they fed them both poison, and they had the group of rabbits, they just gave it the poison, like a little bit, not enough to kill them, but to see if they got sick. And then they gave the same amount of poison to the same rabbit or another group of rabbits, but they loved the rabbits. They would pet it and they would hold them and they would say all these nice things to the rabbit beforehand. And those rabbits didn't get the same health issues that the other ones did. And it was just about what state they were in before they were eating it.
That makes a lot of sense. Just like people can eat a lot of junk food and somehow remain unscathed, and other people will eat that same food and gain a bunch of weight. It's energy, it's consciousness, it's intention.
That's beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love it. And are there challenges other than accountability or awareness when it comes to biohacking that you see, or maybe setbacks that people tend to struggle with when it comes to taking on biohacking for themselves?
I think, and I'm guilty of this as well. It's like the feeling that you need to do it all
Hmm.
and that you're missing out, FOMO. I'm missing out because I'm not going to that place with the hyperbaric oxygen chamber once a week. I'm missing out if I don't do my red light every day. Um, I think that can be an issue for people. Just like more is not always a good thing.
Mm. Is it something that you need to be aware of your emotions and mental state when it comes to biohacking? Would that lead with the intention part of it?
I think definitely, awareness, self-awareness is always a great thing to have. And also to be able to really notice, like, okay, I'm doing this for 7 days, or I'm doing cryo for 7 days, or I've done, sauna or red light. How am I feeling? And people, because I take 1,000 supplements and I do all different things, people are always like, well, what works? And I'll say, I don't really know exactly what works, but I'm feeling pretty good. So that's okay. And I liken this to spiritual tourism, which I've done quite a bit of in my life. I went to John of God in Brazil. I go to India. I've, gone to different parts of Asia for spiritual pursuits. So I consider myself a bit of a spiritual tourist, but I think that one can also consider them a biohacking tourist or a health tourist, and just, it's like a trip to the buffet. You can try different things and they're not all going to stick, but the joy is in the exploration and the journey.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great conversation on biohacking. Is there anything that you'd like to end with?
Um, just, take your health into your own hands physically and mentally. And it's the most valuable investment that you will make, because your health is your most valuable asset always.
Absolutely. And for my listeners, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Beth Shaw Health. You can also find me at bethshaw.com. YogaFit is on Instagram and social media, and so is our new B YogaFit studio in Lauderdale by the Sea, Florida.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. And for my listeners, you guys know what to do. I'll see you on Wednesday. As always, stay kinky.